Hey everyone, Yvette St.Amant here. I'm so excited you're joining me today. I am going to show you how to create a vintage English rose garden journal. And we're going to be doing some basic book construction here. Just like this. This is just my little sample. It's not vintage, but we're going to learn how to do the 3-hole pamphlet stitch, create a little journal that you can keep all your little goodies in. But I'm also going to show you how to create it so that it looks vintage without having to go out and search for a vintage paper or paper that's already vintaged up. I'm going to show you how you can turn anything to look vintage. And I have a sample here of my Advent journal, which I created. This is a Christmas journal that you'll start seeing. It's on Amazon. But what I did is I actually made everything that's inside is handmade, and I created it so that everything looks vintage. So we're going to be using that technique today. Just with some simple supplies and craft paper. I just want to show you this one more time because this is really unique. This is an Advent journal that I created for Christmas. It's 25 days of journaling. It's great for your kids. So you can, at the back of the book, there's little inserts that you would put into their Advent calendar. There's one for every day, and there's just a little activity for your children to do. So each day they would pick a little note out from their Advent journal, and they're going to be given a little task. So they'll fill it out, and it's such a cute little keepsake for that year. You customize the front with the name and the year, so it doesn't matter what year you're doing it in. But I make these little books. My good friend Robin McClendon, who's a master book maker, she's the one that taught me everything that I know. And now I'm doing workshops. I create these little books, and I sell them online. So it's such a good little technique to learn. But that's my journal. We're going to be learning all these kind of vintagey techniques. And today we're going to be doing an English tea rose garden. And the supplies that you need, I'm going to tilt the camera down in a minute just to show you. But one thing that I picked up is this craft paper book, just from Michael's. And it's called English Rose Garden. And I saw this and I thought, this is really, cute. Gave me an idea how I can vintage it up to make it, extra special. And you can do it with anything. I mean, you can get these book kits anywhere and use the theme inside, or just take different pieces of craft paper that you have and create your own thing. So that's what we're working with today. So you want to make sure you have some craft paper. If you want to just play around and experiment, just grab craft paper that you have. I'm going to tilt the camera down so you can see the tools that we're going to need, and we'll get started here. Okay, awesome. So this is just some paper that I've cut so far, but what we're going to need is we're definitely going to need a paper trimmer. Scissors aren't going to cut it. You're not going to get the nice square edges. You're going to need a bone folder, okay, an awl. And these are bookbinding tools. If you don't have them, for today, you can use an upholstery needle for the awl. This is just to poke the holes for actually sewing your edge of your book. You can also use a popsicle stick if you don't have a bone folder. You need some needles. If you don't have bookbinding needles, you can use a sewing needle for now. That will do. And this is waxed linen, specialized for bookbinding. So again, if you're just experimenting and you want to play with the technique, you can use thread, simple cotton thread that you might have lying around in your sewing kit. Now this is optional. It's a corner cutter. It makes your edges round. You do not need this, but I like to use it for finishing. So today, if you don't cut your corners, that is fine. And then right here we have Tim Holtz Distressed Oxide ink, and this is Vintage Photo. You can get a number of different kinds of these inks. I have several. I have like denim, some grape purple, and they're just really nice for adding a touch. And I'm not someone that goes out and gets all the little gimmicky tools of everything. I'm an artist creator, and I'm always, you know, trying to find ways to, you know, save on the costs of these things, because typically most of the time you have stuff at home that you can use. So they do have little kind of stamping pads and stuff to blend, but you know what? I love sponges. I love these, you know, these sea sponges. These are great. They're nice and porous, and that's what I'm going to use to distress. So if you don't have a sponge, I mean, you can take a piece off your kitchen sponge. You can use a cotton cloth. I have tried with cotton balls, but I find that it tends to absorb a lot and kind of get stuck into the cotton fibers. So, you know, a sponge is always great because it kind of soaks it up and it'll keep it moist. And once you dab it again, it moistens it more and you can reuse that ink. So those are basically the only tools that you're going to need today. Oh, and definitely have some scissors on hand. I mean, you can't go wrong with scissors. So let's get started. I'm just going to put my little tools aside here. So I've got some working space. We do not need the bookbinding tools yet, so I'm just going to put those up right now. And we're just going to put this aside as well, because at the moment, let's just get our paper ready and cut it. Now, I have cut a few pieces of paper here already. We are using a 12 by 12 book. You can make these books any size, but just to kind of get started and understand how everything works, grab yourself a 12 by 12 sheet. I've got select the paper that you want. I've already went ahead and selected my papers. When you get the book, you're going to have numerous, you know, papers to choose from. So just go through and choose the ones that you like. That's what I've done. And then also the great thing about these books is that when you get them inside, you're going to have pages like this that have cute little add-ons for journaling. So pull a couple of those out, cut your pieces out. I've already gone ahead and pre-cut mine because I didn't want to bore you while you watch me cut, but pull some of these out, and I've already cut them. So I've got all these nice little goodies here for putting your journal together after. I mean, you get so many of them. They're just really neat for filling up the journal. So we're going to use some of these today, and they come in different sizes, like so. And then you also end up with these beautiful little strips, which are really nice for adding some embellishment and edges. Okay, and we'll get these little tags, and every book is different. One thing that I liked about this one too, which is really neat, is they have this paper in here. Now you can take this paper and just cut it and use it as an insert, or you can actually cut some of these little embellishments out. They're like little stamps, so I thought that would be really cool. So let's get started with cutting our paper. I have cut a few already here, but I just wanted to show you how I do it, because sometimes you'll get paper that's asymmetrical and they have a really, you know, cute little pattern like this. And I wanted to show you different ways that you can cut your paper. So the size that we're going to cut it is 6 by 12. So you only have to cut to the 6-inch mark. But what you want to think about is what you actually want in your paper. And I really like these birds. And in some of them, I mean, you can turn it around, but when I fold my book, you know, if I cut my paper this way, I would end up with my birds on the side or upside down, and I don't want that. I want my birds to be facing me. So the first thing I'm going to do is just take this strip off at the top. It's, you know, one of these perforated pieces, and like I mentioned, these strips are really neat for just holding on to, for embellishing. So I'm going to cut the paper with my birds or whatever image is on the side, so that when I fold it, I'm going to have my birds upright this way. Okay, do you see that? So that's one way of doing it. Now you can use the other piece that you cut as one of your inserts in your book, or if you want to use a bunch of different types of paper, just put it aside. Now, when you look at this piece of paper, there are different ways you can cut it. You can cut it this way, or you can cut it this way. But just keep in mind, where do you want this rose to show? So if I cut the paper, I'll flip it. If I cut it across, when I fold the book, I will have the rose on this side. But if I want, say, the rose at the top of my book, so that when I fold it this way, it is, you know, at the top on the other side. Or if I'm thinking of folding it on the inside and I want it to show at the top, I'll cut it this way. So it's just a little something to think about when you're cutting the paper. So play around and see how you want it folded before you go and cut it. And I think with this one, let's see, I want the rose in the top right hand corner, so I'm going to cut the paper down this way. And this is a really neat piece of paper for an insert too. Just going to put it aside for now. Now, I've got one more piece here that I want to cut. And I thought it would be really neat. You can cut it down here and have all the roses at the bottom, but I thought it'd be really neat just to have some roses on one side of the paper, and then on the other side, just pink. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it this way. And once I start folding the paper, you will definitely understand what I'm talking about. So, and I have two here. As you can see, once I cut it, I have different flowers. I've got more roses and I've got more of the buds. And I think I like the one with the buds, so I'll keep this one. All right, so I have all my papers here. And now all you have to think about is, which one do I want as the cover? And I have already selected this blue is my favorite color. So I'm definitely going to go with the blue. It's got some wonderful gold text on it. So that's going to be my cover paper. And then you want to just try to think about how you want to arrange your papers. And keep in mind, when you're creating a book, because these are all going to be folded, that you want, when you open, for some of these images to be on this side, so that, you know, you've got some really pretty pages on both sides of your paper. So before we go ahead and do that, I'm going to take my cover and I'm going to show you how we distress this. So grab your Oxide Distress Vintage Photo ink, open her up. I'm going to take your sponge. So just take one more look how this looks before the vintage part. And what you're going to do is just dab it in the ink. Okay, and you're going to start just circle motion around the edges of the paper. And you can, this is what I typically do, is kind of go on the edge first and then start working up a bit. And you can do as little or as more as you want, but you're just kind of working it in the paper. And you can already see the difference it's making on these edges. Now, what I like to do is I like to vintage all my paper before I start assembling the book. Today, I'm not going to do that with everything, and the reason being is just for time purposes, because I'm doing a video. I think once you kind of see the technique that I'm doing, you're going to get the picture. So, and then once we fold it, I'm going to show you how we're going to do the inseam, but you can go in and just, like if you've got a little picture here, just kind of go around the picture. You don't want to do too much because you want some of that bright color, but it's a way to kind of, you know, olden up the look a bit of these pictures so it doesn't look like a nice, crisp, brand new piece of paper. See that? Isn't that neat? Okay, so you'll go ahead and do that to all your paper. And then on these papers, there's nothing on the back, so you want to vintage your white paper up. So you're going to go ahead and flip every side and just start working the edges on the white side too. And you're going to do the same thing. You're going to go, you know, around the edges, just kind of work it in. And as your ink starts releasing from the sponge, you'll get less of it. So you can go ahead and just kind of work a little bit into the center. But you never want to start, like once you get your ink on, you never want to go and start right in the center because then you'll get just a big age spot. But just go ahead. Now what's really cool about this paper is it's embossed on the other side with the lettering, and when I'm vintaging it, see how the lettering's kind of coming through on the other side, which is really cool. So if you end up getting paper that's embossed, it just really adds a nice little feature to the white side of the paper. Okay. Bring it down into the white. So when I'm doing the white papers, I tend to add a little more vintagey on it because I don't just want like white in the center. But when I'm using papers that have patterns like this already on it, I use a little bit less. And you can always go back in and add a little more to like the edges, because that's usually where, you know, the papers get worked up and old looking, is around the edges. And do the other side. Oh, I just love how this embossed text is coming through on the other side. I mean, it's always a nice little surprise. It's just so cool. Yay, it's so yummy. Okay. And just keep working it until you get, you know, the paper to your liking. Okay, so now the rear side of, or reverse side of this craft paper is vintaged, because it is going to be a page within your book. So you don't want to neglect that, or you're going to just have like half your book vintage and half your book, you know, looking like brand new scrap paper. All right. So go ahead and do all your pages like this. You want to do the front and the back. Now, let me see how many pages we're going to put in this book. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's not do 1, 2, 3. Leave that out. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so get 8 pages. So 7 plus your header. So go ahead, vintage all your paper, and then I'll meet you back here in a second when my paper is all vintage, and I'll show you how we're going to construct the book. Okay, so I've vintaged all my papers, front and back. And I just want to show you a little trick so that, you know, the papers on the back aren't looking so plain, and you can get a little bit of layering before you construct the book, so they're implemented into the pages. So what I've done is go ahead and figure out where you want your pages in the book, okay? So you're going to lay out your book. These are all going to be folded like such. So you're going to figure out your front cover. And then the pages on the inside, what you want to do is just flip them. So you'll have some where the craft paper is showing and some where the plain background is showing. Okay, so you're going to alternate. And on some, I've got a plain background and the craft paper. On others, it's 2 plain craft papers. And some, the craft papers are, you know, looking at each other. Others, again, it's just half and half. So you want to go and arrange your pages. And then what you can do, what you've seen I've done here, is just those nice little strips that you get. You can even take a sheet of 12 by 12 and cut strips if you want. I just glue them on. You're going to vintage, I'll show you in a second. And just glue some strips on your page going across. Don't worry about the ones going up and down, because we can add those after. But this, we're going to sew the book, so we want them implemented in the pages. So you'll select, I've done a few here. You can do the blank sides. I did one on the top and the bottom here. This one I left blank, because when it's folded, I'll have one with some on it, one with others. And we're going to put little interesting things on here too as well. And then I also, on some of the craft paper, I put a little layer, and I'm going to do one here. I'm just going to show you what I do. So again, you're just going to distress the strip. So just run some of that ink along. You can kind of dab the corners if you want the corners. You got to be very fragile, because it is just a strip. You don't want to rip it. So just kind of, you know, dab some of that vintage oxide on your strip so it looks aged. And then on this one, I want a strip to go across on both papers. So I'm just going to add some glue. I just got to scrap because I don't want the glue on my table. So put glue on your strip. And just add it. It makes, you know, the pages a little more interesting, and you've got it incorporated into the book structure. Okay, line it up. I like to take my bone folder and just smooth it out. Okay, so on this one, I have one at the bottom. You know, I could add another one here. This is kind of neat, this little stripe. I think I'll do that. So again, I'm just gonna distress this a bit. It's nice to get different textures when you get different patterns, patterns on top of patterns. You're building up a lot of texture within the little journal, so that's kind of cute too. Whatever floats your boat. Okay, let me get that down. Okay, so then once in here, I just did a pink line through both of them. So these are all my pages. Okay. So I've already figured out how I want my book laid out with the pages. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to start folding our pages so we can construct our book. So grab your bone folder. And one more thing I want to mention before we get started is if you don't have any of these tools, you're using the suggestions that I told you in the beginning, I just want to show you a really neat little kit that you can get on Amazon. And if you go to my website, YvetteSt.Amant.com, under art supplies, I'll have a link. I do like to go on Amazon and find the best prices and the best deals, but this little kit, I think it was only $12. Maybe it was $10. I can't really remember the price, but you get everything you need in here. And this is a really neat, inexpensive, if you're interested in making journals, you're going to get all the tools that you need. It comes with a bone folder, an awl. Let's do this. This is all the stuff you get in it. So you get 4 waxed linens. You get the bone folder, awl. You're going to have clips. I'll leave 2 of those out since I need them. This is just a little clipper, like scissors that you would use to cut your waxed linen. And there's also a scorer in there too. And a little thimble if you need it, just to protect your fingers. I don't use them, but everybody's different. Oh, and you also get a little tube of needles. Hello, lost for words. So it's a nice little kit if you want to get started. Everything you need is in here to do plenty of journals. So it's a really good investment. Again, you can hop onto my website, YvetteSt.Amant.com. I'll have a link that'll take you right to Amazon and you can order yours. I highly recommend it. It's a great starter kit. So put that aside. Okay, so let's get started on folding our book. So what you're going to do is now you have all your pages sorted the way you want. We're going to fold them all in half that way. So grab your first one. This is your cover. And you're going to, I'm going to turn it this way so you can see. You line up the pages. And just put your finger down in the middle. Grab your bone folder and just press away from you to fold it. And you've got a perfect fold. Look at that. Wonderful. Okay, so then you can just put that aside. I always like to keep it open because I'm going to add the pages in. I already had it the way that I wanted it. So I'm going to flip it this way so you guys see. So go ahead. You're going to do all your pages. I'll do this quickly. And just insert it like an open book. Okay, so continue doing that. I'm working upside down, so I have to make sure I put these in the right way. I think I did this one wrong. You can always, you see I folded it this way, but I realized that's supposed to be on the outside. So just, you can just flip it and fold it. That's fine. Even when you're done, you can go through your book and make sure it's the way that you want it to be here. Okay. So we have 7 pages altogether. You don't have to do 7. They can be, you can do 6, you can do like 4 if you want. Just make sure you don't do too many, because of course, the fatter you make the book, the more the pages are going to come out the side. I'll show you in a second here. So I think 7 or 8 would probably, I would recommend being the max. And then, yeah, that's my inside. Okay. So the reason why I'm recommending not doing too much more is you see how they start kind of coming out the edge here. So you don't want too many, or your book's going to end up out like this with a bunch of sheets. So because we're using thicker paper, I would leave it to a minimum. That's actually the back of my book. This is the front. So you're going to go ahead and open. Now, we're going to do, what I ended up doing is, you know, all these little pieces that they have, you can cut out. They're so cute. So I'm going to do a little pop-out accordion in the middle. So I'm just going to grab one of mine. I did vintage it a little bit, and you're just going to, I want it in the center of my book here, as if we were pasting it in, but we're not going to paste it in. So I'm going to fold it into the inside like a card, and that's going to be the center of my book. Okay, it's going to just fit right in here, but I want to sew it in the book. So you want to make sure that you do this first. So line up your pages. You might be seeing me do this a little upside down because I do have to sew the book, and I want to make sure I get it right here. So you're going to line up your pages, and then just using these bullnose clips, we are going to, now because you have a little insert, I'm doing it in the center, and I'm just going to flip just to try to keep it in place a bit, because we are going to poke holes and we're going to start our sewing. Okay, so I'm going to clip this just like so. I'm going to grab our awl, and we're going to do 3 hole punch. The first one is going to be in the center of the book. Now, the reason why there was a little thimble in there is because you want to make sure your finger's not behind here and you stab yourself. I've had somebody do that in a workshop. Not going to mention any names. If you're watching, I think you know who you are. Okay, so just be mindful of your finger. And the first one is going to be the center of the book. I'm just eyeballing it. And you're just going to poke right through. Okay, that's your first one. And then your second one is going to be about like 1/2 inch in. So we are only going to have one in the center, but that's okay. So we're going to do about 1/2 inch in on the next one. Okay, that's at the top of the book, and the same thing at the bottom. Okay, now we have all our holes. You're going to need your waxed linen, and the way we're going to measure it out is we're going to do 1, 2, and 1/2 lengths of your book. Okay, and that's where we cut it. That's all the thread we're going to need. So what happened to my, oh, I put the needles away, didn't I? All right, so we're going to need a needle. And we're just going to thread it. The nice thing about this waxed thread is just take your nail and kind of flatten it. And the wax keeps it all together, so it's easy to get through the, spoke too soon here. There we go. My hands are sticky with glue. Okay, so pull your thread through. Okay. Okay, so I've threaded it. And what you're going to do is you're going to start at the spine of the book, so the outside of the book, and go through the center hole. So you want to make sure you're going through all the pages here. I think my book shifted a bit. I'm just going to take this middle one out. Let's get that through the hole. See that? And then I'll add that back in because it's a little loose here. There we go. I can flip this back to kind of get it centered. All right, so we put it through. Bring your needle all the way through. Come on. And you're going to leave just a little tag here sticking out. All right. So we've left this one, it's like 4 inches or so. Then we're going to go through the top, out, pull it through, and we're going to skip the center and go right through to the bottom hole. Okay, see that? Then the last one, don't pull the thread too tight because this wax linen can cut right through your paper. We're going to go back through the middle hole, but we're going to make sure that we come up on the other side of the spine thread here. So we don't want it to end up on this side. We want it to end up over here. So we'll do that. See how I'm coming up on the opposite side? Pull through, and then you can take your thread off. And then at this point, you can tighten your threads. So you want the back, you want the spine to be taut. Okay, and then now the reason why you want it on either side is we're going to tie a knot, and we're going to go right over left to secure it, and left over right. Oops. Okay, and then you have just these 2 little threads that you can embellish with beads, tassels. Let me see if I have some samples here. All kinds of different things you can do. So I've got some journals that I've made here where I've beaded the ends and added a tassel. Others where I've beaded and just added a little charm. And same thing here, bead and a little tassel, or you can just leave it. So there's some little cute little ideas for you. And if you want them a little bit longer, instead of doing 2.5, you can do 3.5 long. So it all depends on the look that you're looking for. And then once you, I made a mistake. I put my little love in backwards. Look at that. So it's good that I do these little loopsies. I'm going to have to rethread this. So I'm just going to undo, use your awl to pick up the threads. Good thing I didn't do it too tight. Okay, and then you can just pull the thread out and start over. It happens to all of us. So that's one thing to pay attention to when you're doing this, is make sure when you have a little insert like that, that it's the right way. So I'm going to have to rethread this again and do it over. We're all human. This is something that happens. Okay. But at least, you know, you've seen me do it, and you can see if you make that same mistake, you can definitely go back and fix it. So, all right. You get to see me do this twice. So if you missed it the first time, here. Okay, so through the center. And the top. Through the bottom. And then back. Hang on. Through the center, coming up on the opposite side of that thread. Okay, release your needle. Make sure the spine is taut. What I like to do is just kind of pull the insides to the center, and then when I flip it, I can just pull the threads right over left and left over right. Okay, your hands may feel a little sticky from the wax, mine do, and hopefully, let's see, did I put it on the right side? Yeah, so it's on the inside there. So there, your little book is constructed. How cool is that? And then on the inside, I'm just going to show you how I'm going to do the little pop-up. So I have these cute little signs, love, hope, peace. And one is already folded. So your second page, I actually want it when it's open all the way, it's going to look like this. You're going to have like a blank one here. So go ahead and just place your papers this way so you know how to fold it. Because basically what it's going to do is we're going to have an accordion here. Okay. And we're going to fold it in such so that it goes over just a little bit, okay? We don't want it folded right in the center, and the reason is because when we have it in the book, we need this to be able to close, okay? So you see how when it's this way, you're going to have just a little bit of the white showing, which is totally okay. So that's for the second one. And what we're going to do is we're just going to attach it with a little bit of washi tape. And I have this vintage tape. They have little butterflies. I thought it'd go well with my theme here. I've got a couple little vintage tapes. So I'm going to use the butterflies. I'm going to cut a piece. Make sure it's long enough to fit on the paper, but it doesn't necessarily have to be like, let it go a little bit further than what it is, because you can trim it after. I like to put the sticky side up and just lay my paper on top, and then I can use my bone folder just to kind of press it down. So you've got the tape on there, and then what we'll do is we'll lay this piece on top. And just connect it like so. Okay. Use your bone folder so that when you go on this side, you can see the butterflies. Now, what I like to do just for reinforcement is add tape. You can fold it over, but I mean, it depends. If you want that look where it's just showing like that and you're okay with it, that's cool. But what I like to do, you can use the same or something different. I think I'll use this one this time. Cut another piece and just lay it on top this time. And again, you can use your bone folder. Okay, and then just take a pair of scissors and trim it. That's way it's reinforced on both sides. And then you can fold it. And when the book's closed, it's just a cute little insert that will pop out. Now we're going to add one more, which is the last one. And this one we are folding to the inside. So you're going to have your pretty paper on the inside. This one you can fold right in half. So go ahead, fold it in half. Use your bone folder. Whoops. Uh-oh. Okay. Love, hope, and so peace will show this way. Same thing. This time I want the butterflies on the top, so I'm going to use this tape. Cut a piece, sticky side up, and just lay this on. Try to center it. I find this just the easiest way of working with these tapes. Okay, and then place your other one on top. Just make sure all the tape is stuck down. And then we'll use our butterfly tape or whatever tape that you have. Use it on this one to add on top of this one. Okay. Again, just grab your scissors to trim it. And fold it. Use your bone folder just to go along the edge so you know it's going to fold nicely. And what's nice is now those little white edges that you thought you saw are, you see the washi tape. And then in the middle of the book, you have this cute little pop out. How neat is that? And then when you flip it over, you've got hope on the side. And all these little blank pages, this is where you can go and embellish and use all these little tags. And what, you know, I like to do is I'll take them. You can use your corner cutter and cut the corners to get some round edges. You don't even have to do all the edges. And then you can either stick them in here or here. You can use little washi tapes to attach them and start embellishing your journals. There's all these cute little tags you can fill out. You can give this as a gift for a gardener. There's all kinds of neat things you can do. But I want to go back to the cover of the book, because one last thing I'm going to show you is how to do a library pocket for the front. And I'm going to do something a little different this time, which we'll see how it turns out. But all you want to do is use some scrap paper. Here, let me use this one just so I can show you how I cut it. Okay. Now I have these little cards and inserts. So you just want to make sure you're making a pocket big enough that's going to fit one of these little cards. So you want to cut paper that's probably about like 1/8 of an inch on each side. So 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch. I mean, depends. You can always make it bigger. Just don't make it any smaller than this. So this particular one, my card is, let's see. So my card is 3 by 4. So the pocket folder that I did is 3 1/4 by 4 1/2 because I want a little bit of the background to peek out. So let's go ahead. I'm going to cut a piece of paper here that's 4 1/2. Just so I can show you how I cut it. So 4 1/2 is the height. Oops. I'm doing the back piece. Okay, so my back piece is, sorry about that. You're going to want 2 pieces of paper if you want like a different color. So we are doing the back piece here. I'm sorry if you're confused. So we're going to do 3 1/2 is the width, and 4 is the height. Is that right? Or is it 4 1/2? Looks a little, it's 4 1/2. Okay, so 4 1/2 is the height. Again, you can do it as big as you want. This is just the size that I'm doing. And then what I did is I took my corner cutter and I cut just the top of the pocket folder. Okay, so this is actually on the back, and then we're going to have a piece of paper going across the front that's going to make the pocket. So with that, and I've already cut my piece here. So this one is 3 1/2 by 4 3/4. So the idea is that you want to make sure you've got enough on either side to fold over, because we're going to fold it over to make the pocket. So in this case, because I'm showing you how to cut it, what I typically do, because every pocket that I make is different, is that I put my piece of paper in here, and then I'll just lay my pocket, the back, in behind, so I know that I have about 1/2 an inch on either side to fold over. So this one I'm going to cut, it's 3 wide, so 3 1/2 wide, so I'm going to make sure I cut this to 4 1/2. Okay, it's better just to have more than less. All right, we can put this away. So this is the one I just cut. It looks like this. You're going to have 2 pieces. This is the one I already had. All right, so you can see what I've done here. Okay. So I'll make 2 pockets for you, because this one I'm going to try something a little different that I haven't done before. So what you want to do is just, how I do it is I'll flip it over and kind of estimate. I do one edge first. So I'll measure, take it apart, take it out. So we're going to grab your bone folder, you need that, and fold over one edge. Okay. So you've got one edge that folds over. Now put your pocket back inside. If it's easier for you to see this way, you can do it this way. And then you can see where you need to fold the next one. And I'll leave it in like this and just fold it this way. Make sure you flip it over, because you want you want the edges to be able to go over. We're going to glue it, and you want to see, you know, the pretty paper on the back, and then we'll glue this on the lid. But what I thought I'd do, I haven't done this yet, but I've been wanting to, is I want to actually cut out this negative space so that when I put my little goodie inside, you see more of the picture, you know, and there's a variety of them you can put in. So you want to fold it over first. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and cut, because I want it to pop out. I just want to try something new here. And that's the great thing about doing, you know, little journals and embellishments, is just try new things. So you've got to leave at least something. Like I have a little leaf here, I think, which might be enough. I think I might, let's see, kind of, let's see, I'll cut it across here. So I've cut it. Now when I glue it and make the pocket, I have an asymmetrical line, and then when I go and put my little embellishment, you can see more of it. See how that is? Maybe I'll use something else that shows, but it's just an interesting little, different little way of doing it. So just flip your card over. What you want to do is put a little bit of glue at the bottom of the back piece, and you're going to line it up to the bottom of your piece here. Okay. And then add glue to your flipped edges that you folded on both sides. And you have yourself a little pocket. You can go ahead, I did add a little bit of antiquing, distressing to it, to the back, but I'm going to go ahead now and do a little bit on the edge. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to put a scrap piece of paper here. I'm going to glue this onto the front of my book. So let's get my glue. Glue it on the front. I love these pockets. You could put them anywhere on the inside of your book as well. I like to use bone folders, are great for just kind of getting down the edges. And then I can put whatever little card that I want inside the front. It just slips right in. How cute is that? And that is my vintage journal. As you flip through, I've got all the pages ready for embellishing, and my construction's done. You all know how to do the antiquing, the vintage distress. I've showed you how to make a pocket, how to make an accordion insert. Now all you have to do is have a little bit of imagination and have some fun embellishing your little journal with all the little goodies that you've cut out of your craft paper, and do the same thing with just antiquing the edges. Get your little sponge, your ink, antique whatever it is that you want to put into your journal, and you're going to have the cutest little vintage journal. And you can do this with any kind of style. You've got your little pocket in the front. You can change it up, you know, play around, see what you like best in it, and make some more of these little pockets to put on the inside. I'll do another little video that's going to have other embellishments that you can do with your journal. So this was a basic construction, and if you want to see how I make this journal a little extra special with all my embellishments, just join me in my next video. So make sure you subscribe so you get all the updates to the rest of my DIYs. And go visit my website, YvetteSt.Amant.com. If you're interested in Advent journals, Advent calendars at Christmas, go ahead on Amazon. Pick yourself up one of these journals. They're great for children, school ages, starting at age 5. I mean, you can do it a little bit younger if you want to